Good evening. I'd like to start this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is the meeting of the Urbana City Council. I'd like to ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Jacobson. Mr. Madigan.
Here.
Ms. Marlin.
Here.
Mr. Roberts.
Here.
Mr. Smythe.
Here.
Mayor Pressing.
Here. The first item is approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, January 5th, 2015. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Motion by Bill Brown, seconded by Dennis Roberts. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Are there any additions to the agenda? I don't see any. And now we'll come to petitions and communications, and I'd like to call on Phil Edwards to be the first. Yes, please do. That's it.
Did you get the bad chair?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we have some awards that we would like to present to some citizens, and Phil's going to go ahead and do the presentation.
All right, just go with me if you will. Imagine selling your home on a Friday and not being able to close on the home that you're buying until Monday. What would you do? You go to a local hotel with a pool and hang out. Now imagine it's the weekend before Christmas and you don't want to travel, but you don't necessarily want to stay in the house either. What do? You go to the local hotel that has a pool. Now imagine while you're at that pool that your wife notices a motionless body at the bottom of that pool. So you turn around and you go down and you bring that child out and he's not breathing. And while he's not breathing, there's someone else there that happened to be homeless because they sold their home and wasn't able to buy the other one yet, and comes over and help. Now you can stop imagining at this point, because what I'd like to do now is talk about the people that actually lived this situation. While there were 3 families that were involved, one of the families they were unable to make it here, but I would like to acknowledge and recognize the heroic efforts of 2 citizens. On December 20th, 2014, at approximately 7:40, Corey Willard and Revka Garber were swimming with their respective families at the Eastland Suites on North Cunningham. Corey's wife noticed a child at the bottom of the pool and alerted her husband. Immediately, Corey swam to the child and pulled him from the pool. Upon noticing the chaos of the moment, Revka made her way to the child as well and offered assistance. As a nurse, she was aware of what to do, even though it was not the setting that she's accustomed to working in. Although the child was not breathing upon being removed from the pool, through the quick and decisive actions of these 2 heroes, instead of a family living through the worst imaginable nightmare, a child was able to eventually go home to his parents. Now, I'd like to point out the fact that Revka is a nurse, and Corey is a farmer, and he's an Eagle Scout, and he's the current leader of one of the troops. And I'd just like to say this. The Seattle Seahawks win games in front of fans that do nothing but scream. But here in the emergency services, we're winning at the game of life with participating citizens like the 2 that we're here to honor tonight. So, Mrs. Garber and Mr. Willard, if you come up. We would like to present you with these certificates of appreciation for and recognition of your life-saving actions on December 20th, 2014 at Eastland Suites in Urbana, Illinois. Revka. And I would just say ditto, because this is strictly the same thing, and we're going to just say this for the picture. Somebody's up there, take a picture.
You got a TV camera there.
All right.
Hey,
Okay.
hey, Brian.
Thanks for your time.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate what you did. Okay, the next person is Carletta Donaldson.
Hi, it's Carletta Donaldson, 406 Brookins Drive. First of all, Happy New Year, and in light of all that is going on in this community, state, nation, and world, I ask that those who will to take a moment of silence to pray, reflect, meditate, if you will. Thanks. Next, as I looked at the agenda this week, I noticed that Ms. Vasilia Clark has retired. I think January 16th was the effective date. That has saddened me, my family, and community, but it is with much thanks her utmost dedication and sincere commitment to the City of Urbana residents, staff, and well-being will never be matched by any other. To Ms. Clark, thanks for that long-standing commitment you have had, especially in the Donaldson family alone, and we are forever grateful each time we reflect. So congratulations and best wishes to Ms. Vasilia Clark. I believe she was Human Resources Manager or Director. This seat, which has now been vacated by State Representative Carol Ammons, that's my next issue. There are obviously pressing issues up for vote in the next 3 weeks, or next few weeks, which Ms. Ammons has voiced her concerns on behalf of the former precinct constituents that she served. At a time when for the last few years I have noticed an urgent call for positions to be filled on many committees, we now have one definite and possibly one or two others who are interested in filling the seat. I believe it should be the choice of the people, while the mayor and council would democratically appoint and or approve. It should be noted that at least one of the potential candidates is willing to forego their potential application should the one who has been involved in issues, attended meetings regularly, and articulated the desires of not only their district, or precinct, but those of other residents throughout the city. Now, I know that areas are assigned, and I'm sure that although your priority as council members is to the residents in the district you serve, your concern has to be for the entire city and its residents as a whole. So let's let the district have a say in whom will be representing them, and it has been suggested that the names be forwarded, hopefully by next week, to the Committee of the Whole, and a final decision or vote and seating of approved candidates can be done the following week so that business can continue in the interest of all people in the city of Urbana. Now, unless, of course, you are willing as a council to forego the vote on the critical issues coming up until someone is actually seated. And I'm not sure where it stands now as far as that choice, and if that could be commented after I'm done with my statement here. And then on to the tasers. I continue to have many conversations with residents and law enforcement, and I'm still stuck on that mental health piece. I know the law enforcement and those for tasers are going to say what you've been saying, and if there are situations that would warrant the use of tasers. And then you know that I keep saying the same thing about the mental health piece, which also has me stumped, because obviously if you have a mental illness, that equates to being sick. So I understand that if your life is threatened, though, this is just another tool before the deadly force is used. But again, I ask, show me more than just that one incident on Main Street, which happened a little over a year ago, where a situation in the last 2 years has warranted a call to the sheriff's office or U of I for the use of a taser. Another reason that seat needs to be filled before this final vote and or implementation, or not to be sure that the people of all areas, even those who might be affected and effected by its use, are able to have an equal say in the decision. Again, we should all be working together to protect and serve. All lives do matter. Finally, I've not been here in the last couple of months, and I had mentioned to Jason that I noticed Patrick Wade is now the U of I police spokesperson, and he used to sit right over there as a representative of the News Gazette. So he will certainly be missed, but we do wish him well in his new endeavors. And Jason, last Friday, the community-wide Martin Luther King Jr. celebration was taped, and I
You
saw
have
it on
1
Monday
minute,
evening.
Ms. Donaldson.
Okay, thanks. But I saw it on Monday evening, and he let me know this evening that it was up as early as Saturday. So I thank Jason, UPTV, and Jake for their speeding up of putting that online and on television. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Paula Vanier.
Hi, my name is Paula Vineo. I live at 109 West Atlanta Street. Can everyone understand me?
Yes.
And this is Amy. Smoking in all ways is not acceptable. We live, we believe we should not have to smell smoke from our neighbors in making some people sick. I am sinus trouble. It cannot be good for anyone that smoke. If they smoke in their apartment, those that live there, that is okay, but they should not let smoke in the hallway. And we have one tenant there that smoke at use in at the same time. Thank you. I will let Amy speak now.
I'm Amy Stevens, and Paula and I are both from Edge of Mall Apartments on 109 West Illinois Street. We have Tara McCauley with us from Public Health. She has spoken to our group and taken a tour of the building, but there's smoke on 3 out of the 5 floors in the building. It boils out from the other tenants' apartments, and I have suffered health-wise. I've been to the doctor. I take cough drops, cough syrup, bought a $175 air purifier, bought a humidifier last weekend, and I've been sick for about a year now and my doctors say it's from the smoke. It's in my bronchioles are affected and my nasal passages. We want to know, are there any ordinances about cigarette smoking in apartment buildings?
You have 1 minute left.
And our other question is, do non-smokers have any rights? Do they have a right to breathe clean air in their own apartments or in the hallways or elevator? And then Paula mentioned the guy that is on oxygen and smokes on the 3rd floor. And do people just forget about seniors and disabled people and just let us sit and in these with these circumstances in a building? Or is there anything that can be done, or is there anything else that we can do? We've contacted public health, but I don't know what other avenues we could take. Thank you.
Okay, well, we could ask our legal department to research it and get back to you. And you've talked with the ownership and management of the apartment complex?
We've talked with the management, yes.
Well, I know Urbana was one of the first cities to establish a non-smoking area in restaurants. That was back in the 1980s. And also, we passed a non-smoking in public places. And then it became a state law. So, did you want to say something, Bill? And then Dennis?
I was just curious if you had contacted the tenant union.
Yeah, and they said good luck with that.
Yeah, I don't know, you know.
Pat, I suppose.
Well, it might be a different tenant union now, but yeah, I don't know if there would be anything regarding neighboring apartments, but I thought there might be, but we could definitely look into it.
Yeah.
Or look into what could be done about it, but I assume that there'd be some kind of restrictions on public areas in apartment buildings maybe, but.
Yeah.
So are just, are
it's
two
in
of
the hallways and in the elevator.
and then
I
are
took
two of the
Tara-
floors
This
non-smoking?
is Tara back here, and I took her on a tour of the building, and she said it was horrible.
So are two of the floors non-smoking?
They're not, none of them are designated
Okay.
smoking or non-smoking. And the only thing that I've dug up so far is that HUD had a letter come out in 2002. It's a HUD building. And they had something come out in 2002 saying that there should be designated smoking areas. But we don't have like a smoking room. There's no designated smoking area outside the building. Everybody, the management has told me that the smokers have a right to smoke in their apartments. I said, what about my health? What about it coming into my apartment?
Right, okay, thanks.
Dennis?
Yeah, so we worked on the smoking ordinance change here years ago, quite a few years ago now, but it was soon followed by a state ordinance. And in my recollection, I haven't looked at the ordinance probably in 7 years, but I'm sure that any public hallway and vestibule is off limits to smoking because that's state law now, as far as I'm aware. Smoking in your individual domicile is permitted, but if it's affecting everybody else on the corridor, that's not a good thing. And I think that, public health would be the person to talk to. Community development might be a good department here in the city to contact. Public health is the one who would be responsible for probably observing and enforcing the ordinance locally. I may stand corrected, but
Yeah,
that's my
I
belief.
think we'll ask our legal department to look into this, and we'll certainly talk to public health. Did you want to say anything, Tara?
I mean, I don't know, do you want me to phone a friend?
Oh, no, I think you're part of this discussion, so,
Take my seat.
yeah, there's 3 chairs there, so if you want to take.
Well, so Amy contacted us, and the reason she contacted us is we work on smoke-free multi-unit housing initiative. However, it's voluntary. It's up to each property owner whether they want to have a smoke-free apartment building. So we've been just contacting property owners one by one and asking if they'd be interested in working with us. And so, unfortunately, in this situation, there is the Smoke-Free Illinois Act, and it covers public places, but these tenants are smoking in their apartments, and it's just seeping. They're heavy smokers, and it's throughout the whole building, and that's what happens in multi-unit housing. Unfortunately, it's just you can't keep it contained in one room. It gets out into the other areas. So, these folks have been contacting everybody they can find that will help them. And it would take either a policy change on the part of the property owner or an ordinance or a law or something like that. There's not a lot we can do. There's no public health violation that's going on. or
So
anything.
does HUD have regulations about restricting smoking to certain areas of a building?
They have a policy that's encouraging all of the HUD property to go smoke-free. And they actually have a toolkit they've sent out to all of the HUD properties and the housing authorities, but that's voluntary as well. So it's just, they're strongly encouraging it, but it's not mandated.
Okay. Diane?
Who actually owns the building?
Pacific Management.
Pacific Management?
Mm-hmm.
They manage their building, they're not the owners, though. They're a management corporation.
Does HUD own it? Is that how it works? Or?
No, it's a private owner. I asked the manager for their name and phone number, and she said, I can't give that to you.
So do most of the people in the building not smoke, or most of them smoke?
We're doing a survey, actually, of the residents right now. They have a tenant association.
I will go to say 15, 10,
15 tenants smoke?
10,
10?
or 10.
Out of about how many people?
50 apartments.
10 of them smoke? Okay, well, it sounds like you could get the votes there. So we'll take a look at it, and thank you for calling it to our attention.
Thank you.
Okay. Bishop King James and Reverend Dr. Evelyn Underwood do not wish to speak at this time, but they're still concerned about the Dr. Ellis subdivision sewer problems. Amy Stevens. Amy Stevens already talked. Well, okay. Tom Fiedler.
I might be slightly premature. I know you, the council has discussed this item as far as video gaming and the expansion of it. I did want to commend the council because I know the state's looking at changing the ordinance, the legislation now to constrict and control some of the areas that are expanding into having video gaming. But I did pull some numbers that currently now in the city there's a total of 55 machines. For a population of over 41,000. So I don't think that there is a saturation level. I think it is an important number. The city collected $135,000 in taxes last year, according to Illinois Gaming Board's website. But more importantly, locations, the local locations the businesses are doing business here in Urbana, collected $947,000 in additional income above and beyond their normal food and beverage incomes. And it's allowed people to do a lot of expansion, repairs. I do know of one location that's hoping that you will extend the number of licenses available. There's a building that's been vacant for almost 10 years in the north side of 5 Points. He'd like to put in a pizza place, and part of his business plan is to have the video gaming revenue. It's a small space. It's been vacated for some time, and last, I think, resident was an adult bookstore. So I think that video gaming can have a positive effect on the city, and I would encourage the council members to go ahead and expand to the next level. I don't think we've reached the saturation point. I don't think it's when this was first brought in 2 years ago, a lot of people had a lot of questions. We didn't have any numbers. We didn't know how it would affect. And I think the impact has been only on a positive side. And again, I hope you're encouraged to increase that and allow some other businesses to join into this income stream.
Could you please repeat the two numbers that you gave? You said 135,000 and then you said 97,000, I believe?
135,000 last year. I just took 2014 numbers. Actually, if you pull up the website, one of the locations listed is closed now, which is Black Rock Pizza. So it's at 55 machines and not 59, but $135,330 for the city, and the locations collected $947,000. It's slightly under that. I used a 35%, and there's a fee, a side games fee that
947,000?
yes, between the establishments that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Well, it's listed as 13 establishments.
How much did the industry get, the owners of the system?
The owners, I mean, but the operators, the ones that provide the machines, which my level is,
right.
we get the same as the location.
Okay, so you get the same as the location, and then how much does the state get?
The state gets 25%. They took in 676,000. I did compute that.
Okay, thank you.
All these numbers are available if you go to igb.illinois, spelled out, .gov. You can go to video gaming and the reports, and you can put in ranges of dates and those type of things and look at all those. So I do know of several locations that have been licensed by the state, or one location in particular that's hoping that you can have a license, and a couple others that want to expand. There's several locations out there that have the opportunity and if chose not to. It's a business decision on their part. Crane Alley is one that comes to mind. So I don't think everybody's just jumping on the bandwagon. If it fits your business plan, people like to have the opportunity to join in.
Okay, Bill Brown has a question.
Yeah, I don't think you said, did you say, are you front with Melody Music? Is that right?
I'm one of the owners of Melody Gaming, correct?
Melody Gaming, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a familiar name. I think when I was like in college, you did pinball machines and stuff like that, so you're a local company in Champaign.
I personally, I'm going to age myself, been at it for 42 years. My father ran it before he did, and then my uncle, who was 16 years older than my dad, started in the late 40s. So, yeah, we've been around for a while. So,
I mean, I think that's one plus, is that at least that part of the 900, you don't have all the machines in Urbana. You have, what, 2/3 of them or something?
I would say we have the bulk of them. Yeah, there's several locations I don't.
So at least that amount of that 900-some thousand, the part that you get at least stays somewhat locally, and assuming you invest it locally and hire local people and maybe some people from Urbana.
Yes, I've hired doubled my staff. I've doubled my vehicles that I have out and about. Added a building, unfortunately, in Champaign for the crowd that I'm in front of. So yeah, I'm definitely reinvesting into the community and providing a certain number of jobs. So and the banks like me too. So needless to say, I haven't paid down my debt yet.
I did have one question about how this works. I was looking at the Illinois the gaming bill that passed that made this possible, and it looks like by default you split half and half with the establishment, but there might be other opportunities to actually make a separate contract where the establishment could get more if you wanted to compete with some of the other companies that had games in some of the popular places. Would you have the ability to take 25% instead of 35% and give the establishment 45% if you made a contract?
No, it's very strict, and it's by legislation that it's required that the location and the operator split equally. There are certain fees. There's a $100 a year state license fee for each of the machines that by gaming board law or rule has to be split, as well as there's about a 0.75% of the net income that goes to Scientific Games that monitors all the games. But the other thing that's addressed in the legislation is no inducement. So I can't come into an establishment maybe that you're opening and say, I'll buy you bar stools and TVs and stuff like that. They want it very up and up. Of course, each establishment, each operator, distributor, manufacturer are all licensed by the Illinois Gaming Board. So I'm going actually through my renewal, and I gave them my $5,000 check in November for a February renewal. So yeah, it's highly scrutinized, highly regulated industry.
And I guess just one follow-up. I kind of was looking at the numbers too, and it looks like per machine per year for the city comes out to anywhere from maybe $1,000 to $7,000, something like that.
No, you're over $2,000 a machine. You're at $135,000 for 55 machines. So average. Like I said, there's 13 listed if you take the whole year of 2014, but 4 of the machines that were located at Black Rock now are in the newer location, Uncle Martin's. So they, the average is at 55 for the year with the restriction of the 12 licenses, and that was 135,000. So
yeah, so a little over 2,000 on the
you're
average. And
yeah,
it
you're
looked
almost
like
2,500.
I mean,
machines.
you actually can look at each establishment. So some of the establishments were maybe 6,000 or 7,000 per machine. Others were 1,000 or 2,000.
Oh, there's
so,
a great discrepancy as far
yeah.
as what the incomes are because, most of the fraternal clubs are doing well, and more of the rest of the areas that are more of a bar type setting have a tendency to do better. Some of these haven't been set for the whole year, and certain locations have limited hours that affect their income as well. So, it's important to have the machines available for a long period of time because it takes time in the seat for people to play, and our averages are the machines are fixed at about 92-94% payoff, but what they usually do is take about 75% of that walks away with the player on average every time they play. So,
okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll stay here if anything comes up.
Okay. We don't have any unfinished business that we're going to be dealing with, so we'll move on to reports from standing committees. That would be Michael Madigan.
Okay. So last week, the Committee of the Whole approved a motion to forward to the Council with a recommendation to approve proposed ordinance number 2015-01-002, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance FY 2014-15 for capital improvement donations to the Arbor programs. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Was that Diane first? Okay.
Ladies first.
Okay, motion by Madigan, seconded by Marlin. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe? Mayor Pressing?
Yes. That motion carries.
The committee approved a motion to forward to the council with a recommendation to approve proposed ordinance number 2015-01-004, an ordinance amending Urbana City Code, Chapter 3.7, Section 3.7-15, increasing the number of licensed premises that may display video gambling terminals, 2015. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Motion by Madigan, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? Bill Brown?
Yeah, I had a couple questions how our ordinance is implemented. Yeah, thanks. So right now we're authorized for 12 licenses, but 2 of those businesses are out of business now. And according to what the ordinance,
only one business is out of business.
Bouvan's, Corkscrew, they had a license.
The previous fiscal year, Bouvan's did.
Oh, did we raise it back up to 12 then after that?
It stays at 12. Black Rock Pizza went out of business, and we licensed Martin's, Uncle Martin's.
Okay,
So
the way
they
I
took
read the
their
ordinance
place.
is when a license is, when it goes defunct, I forget how it says, when it lapses, the number automatically decreases by 1.
Mm-hmm.
So that means 11 would be authorized after Bouvan's goes out of business, and 10 would be authorized after Black Rock closes.
No, we had Black Rock, before we licensed Uncle Martin's, and before Black Rock closed, we had 12 premises. And when Black Rock closed, that opened one up to license Uncle Martin's. So we have 12 licensed businesses right now.
Okay, I guess I'd want some clarification from legal about what the ordinance says and the way we're implementing it. I mean, that makes sense maybe to have 12 constantly, although if we hit that cap, I wonder if there's an incentive for a business to give up their license, and if there'd be some possibility that a business that wanted their license would offer them money to give it up, and that we would never hear about it, and the IRS would never hear about it, stuff like that.
We just hit the 12, and right after Black Rock closed, then somebody else wanted a license.
Okay,
And
so
then,
the way the way we've implemented it is that there's 12 open, whether they're,
Yes.
and then when one becomes available, we make
Right.
it available.
And when they were all full, that's when we decided
Okay.
to.
I guess I'd want legal to look at that.
Yeah,
and make sure.
just to clarify, on the liquor licenses, when somebody goes out of business, the number goes down, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, so they have to have a liquor license to be able to have the video gambling, but the video gambling ordinance may be written differently, that we always, we set 12 as the number and we go up to 12. I don't know if it's, I haven't looked at it for a while, so I don't know if it's consistent with the liquor ordinance, but we'll take a look at that.
And then, as far as transferability goes of our licenses, if a corporation owns the business and the corporation is sold, does it transfer with the corporation?
No.
I don't believe so. And I think the ordinance actually says that, if a business goes out of business and they had the video gaming, then, that number would go back down. But legal can check on that, just to double check.
Okay.
I read it.
He's ready to answer that.
I did want to make for a quick clarification.
Come on up and use the microphone, please.
If a location closes or is sold, they have to start from square one to go back through the licensing process on the state level as well. So you do have your checks and balances. I do know when I spoke here, guys, it's been 3 years ago, it seems the time flies, that there was going to be a natural attrition. I know where you're coming from, that you were starting at 6, and if one got turned in, that you'd be at 5. And I think it makes more sense from my situation to have a set number, because certain businesses, like I said, video gaming doesn't help that much, and it's a business decision. So you're going to have people that want to try it. It's still new. It's a new business. We don't know which locations are going to attract the players and others that aren't going to. So it would be nice to have the opportunity, and I think what you'll find, especially from my standpoint, who I've got the bulk of the investment. I mean, if I put a set of 5 machine location, I've got right at $100,000 invested. So I need to see a return, or I'm going to say, I know you're licensed, but you're not, you're not substantiating enough income for me to keep the machines in place.
So you said that if a business closes and then reopens under different management or something, they would have to start over. But what if it just changes ownership, changes?
Yes, the entity, the actual physical location, and the individuals, owners, are 5% or more, or all have to be licensed through the Illinois Gaming Board.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. So I guess we're in discussion, so I can keep going?
You might want to stay
Okay.
there.
Yeah, you can stay. I don't know if you can answer any of this. This is more, I think, kind of a philosophical decision for the council. Since we have a set limit, we have 12 now, and we're talking about going to 20. I think I'd like to hear what people's rationales are for deciding what the limit should be. Otherwise, you don't need a limit, but if every time we have a few extra applications over the limit, we're going to raise it, then why have a limit? But I think it makes sense to have a limit. I think we have to balance being able to provide enough places so that if people need to gamble or want to gamble, they have someplace legal and safe to do it. But I don't think we want to be in the promotion business, promoting gambling. Every dollar that's lost in a video machine is a dollar less people have to spend at other businesses in Urbana. I've received quite a bit of input on this because I asked for it on our WUMA mailing list. So I got about 10 or 12 emails, and a couple people stopped me on the street because I was undecided. I voted no last week as just kind of on a hunch or on a gut feeling that we already had enough. And I think a lot of people think it's a regressive tax, although it's not a tax because it's voluntary. You go out and do it yourself. You make that choice. But it is regressive. It affects people that make less money more. It's also can be addictive. It's not addictive for everybody, but even if it's addictive for a small percent, we have to think about when we start making it more convenient for people to gamble, even a small percent is a few families, and what is that doing to those families? And another comment I heard was just it's tacky. Kind of the comments you hear about digital billboards or something is just it's an image problem they think maybe for Urbana. So I don't have anything against gambling. I gamble on occasion. I've been to casinos and horse racing tracks, and I buy lottery tickets on occasion. But I do think we need to consider the economics of this as far as what people are spending on gambling and how that affects our other businesses. $2.7 million was spent in Urbana last year. Probably even if we didn't do anything, since we got several licenses toward the end of the year, it would be maybe $3 to $4 million lost in video gaming in Urbana this year. So that's $3 or $4 million that Urbana businesses, other businesses, wouldn't get. It's true the businesses make about 35% on every loss in the video machine. I don't know how that compares to other margin. I mean, the margin after the overhead. You already cover your overhead, so I don't know what your food cost and stuff like that is. But imagine if you saw a glass of beer for $4 or $5, you might be making more than 35%. So I think all these things are things we should think about. I still think 20 is too many. I don't think we have 20 gas stations in Urbana. I don't think we need 20 gambling establishments. But I don't know if 12 is enough. I looked at the numbers, and like he was saying, there's a range, and some are probably at capacity. If they're raising $7,000 per machine for the city, it's probably a pretty busy place. It's probably near capacity. But there's only, looks like 4 establishments in Urbana that are even making over $3,000 per machine. And some of these, I think there's 3 or 4, there's 4 that were just added in 2014, so then the other 4 are making between $1,500 and $2,000 per machine. So I wouldn't say those are at capacity, but maybe it's what time they're open. Or, Silver Bullet, I don't think is open all the time. So I don't know what your criteria is. That's, I think my criteria is we want to do just enough to not make gambling problems worse. And I wouldn't, I think a lot of the evidence and all the studies I've read are basically the economics of it for when you're making 5% on it, like we are, 5% of the net, the economics don't justify it. I think it costs more in social problems, and we don't have police problems at the locations. The problems with gambling don't show up for a couple years down the line. If you've known anybody that has financial problems for whatever reasons, they don't happen all at once. If you're spending an extra $300 or $400 a month that you can't afford, it may take 2 or 3 years. It may take a while before your friends get tired of lending you the money, before your kids decide they want to go live with a different parent.
I'd like Charlie to take over the chairmanship so I could respond.
Okay.
If you would, please.
Mayor Pressing.
We are not isolated that we can control who's going to gamble and who is not going to gamble. This city might be unique in the state in that we set a limit on how many. The other cities either decided to have gambling or to not have video gambling, and Champaign decided to have it. So if we don't open an establishment in Urbana, that does not mean that we're keeping some people from gambling. What it means is that if they want to gamble, they will go someplace else. So far, we have seen this to be a growing industry, and we limit the number of liquor licenses. I thought it was a good idea to limit the number of video gambling establishments, and we started out with a lower number, and we had businesses come here that said it was really important to them to be able to be competitive with Champaign. So even if we closed every liquor establishment in Urbana, for example, that does not mean that we would reduce alcoholism in Urbana. So I think the social ills are known, but as far as we can tell, we have not had a problem with these businesses, and we have them lined up to go beyond the 12. So the 20, I agree, is an arbitrary number, and so is 12. There is no perfect number. There's no formula we can use, so we just try to look at something that's halfway reasonable. So that was our attempt. Thank you.
I'd like to give the chair back to the mayor so that I can join in here.
Well, Charlie, would you like to say something?
Quick question for you.
Yes.
The payout is 92, 94%, but then you use the number 75%. So it's
What I call walk away. In other words, if somebody puts $100 in a machine and plays, on the average, they walk away with $75. And I calculate that because every location has to have a redemption terminal. So I have to have money in there for the people that are cashing the tickets and walking away. So all the money that's put into the machines, less the winnings, there's about a 25% gap.
okay, but that flies. That suggests that you should be getting $92 per back per 100 spent if it's a 92% rate.
Well, now if you calculate, I always use this formula. So if somebody comes in and puts in $100 and they hit the max bet, which is only $2, it's not like a riverboat, and you hit it 50 times, okay? If it is dead on its percentage right that moment in time, and obviously there's a lot of variances in that 92% over a longer period of time, then you would have $92 left, correct? Okay.
Right, yeah.
Now, if you want to hit the button 46 more times because you sat down for maybe 10 or 15 minutes and you want to play some more, and you spend another 10, 12 minutes, you're going to lose another 8%. But the people that then take that ticket and cash it out, they're usually right at that $75 level. So they goes from 92 to about 80, 81. Then they play for a little bit longer and cash their tickets. So,
Well, shouldn't there be people making more than
absolutely. Well,
and so the average should be 92. I mean, that's just how these things should work, shouldn't they, Bill? Yeah. So I'm a little puzzled by that. Yeah, shouldn't over time and clearly over a year, one should see a 92 per 100 payout.
But you're not calculating in the people playing their winnings again. Okay, so in other words, a person sits down, and we're not just sitting there. They put in $100, and the first time they lose 25, they're done. We're saying you get 92% over a longer period of time. So as you win and you play and you get more time to sit down, because it's an entertainment value. A lot of people like to gamble. They like to sit down, kind of turn their brain off, and play the machine. So as they play on every hand, so if they bet $2, they're basically losing, investing or playing at 16 cents per hand is what it's costing them. But what I'm saying is they win, they go up a little bit, they win a little bit, they lose a little bit. As they continue to play, and the longer they play, eventually, on average, the person walks away with $75 or 75% of the money that they originally put in.
Some of
Yeah,
which
but-
might have been winnings.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to.
Part
I'm
of
gonna
the
have to-
92%.
I'll have to think through that
Okay.
statistically and understand it. Maybe I just need to. Yeah, okay, so they're playing house money. Okay, I'll have to figure that out. Okay, thank you.
Dennis?
Yes, all right, so we're looking at the gambling that's in restaurants and bars. We've already allowed them for a while. They seem to be working. We've got 12 now, and we're trying to think of what's appropriate for Urbana, what fits Urbana's style. And you could go, well, we could say, let's add 6 more or something like that. Well, we may have to come back next year and correct it again, up or not. We don't know how many more establishments. I think, I don't know what I don't know if a lot of restaurants will choose to have this kind of gambling as part of their establishments or not. I guess they have a right to if they want to, if there's available licenses. It doesn't change the morality, I don't think, of the community necessarily. I would be more concerned if there was an establishment that came to town that opened up as a restaurant but wasn't really a restaurant, and service of food would be not the prime interest for them to be in business, that what they were hoping to do would be to have 6 machines or whatever the limit is. I think it's 5 or 6. 5, and that would be their income stream for that family. And I think then you would have a gaming house. But if they're required to have a liquor license, those are expensive enough, I would guess, maybe they're not, to make the sale of liquor and imagine foods, like in a bar situation, to at least be a valid business as well. So you could say, should we only have 18? Well, 2 more is 20. I think it's pretty, we already have 12. It's already over 10, so you only have 8 more to go. before you reach 20, and I think that's an acceptable amount. I think that we'd have a completely different conversation here if businesses were opening up to be only gambling establishments or gaming homes. But because it's tied to a business license, of a liquor license, I hope to imagine that we're going to be to avoid, just gaming spots in the town. Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of the things the state's looking at trying to regulate. I mean, if you listen to the riverboats, they're crying that their numbers are down because of video gaming. If the money is staying locally in the communities and stuff, people, instead of driving, I guess here would be probably Peoria being the closest one, and gambling there, they like the convenience. You can't win the $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 you can at the riverboat, and you're limited to $2 bet, but it's entertainment, and they enjoy it instead of making that trip. So hopefully some of those monies are staying here locally. And like I said, if you listen to what the riverboats are saying, then you would believe that for sure. You brought up the fact of the parlors, and that actually is kind of a loophole within the law. And I think Urbana, and you guys would obviously know better than I, but have control over your liquor licenses on how what businesses get it, a liquor license, and obviously that's key for them to go ahead and get a state video gaming license. So what the state is looking at is that no more than, I think 60% is the last piece of legislation that didn't get actually brought up but was kicked around. No more than 60% of the revenue comes from gaming, or no, take that back, at least 60% of the revenue has to come from food and beverage sales. And I think that's a workable number to keep the just gambling houses out of the area, if that's what your goals are. I know if you look at some of the numbers, there's several in Champaign that are like that. A lot of out-of-state companies have come in and tried, many from Oregon, because they have a similar scenario there, have established those type of gaming facilities. And obviously, a liquor license is separate than a video gaming license, so I'm personally not against the council putting in the ordinance that you have rights to deny based off of a business plan or whatever legal would allow you to do.
I think it's important to point out that before this law was passed, there was gambling going on, but the state was not getting any taxes and the local governments weren't getting any taxes, and it was just done illegally. So it's kind of like prohibition failed to get people to stop drinking, and it just created a crime wave.
I don't think anybody's talking about prohibition.
No, but I was just saying that the hidden thing was going on before this law was passed, and I think that's important to keep in mind.
Mayor?
Yes, Charlie?
I'm actually concerned about the issue that Bill brought up at the very beginning, that the way the ordinance reads, that the number should have been decreasing for every one of these. And so I think Michelle's nodding in agreement. Is that correct, Michelle?
That is, having had a chance to review the language as it reads.
So
right
I'm
now.
going to I think the appropriate thing is to send this back to staff to fix that, to propose a fix to that as well. And rather than send this back to committee, I'm just going to move to defer it so that it comes back directly to council.
Is this a question of implementation or a question of the way it was written?
It's the question of the way it was written. Right now it reads, in the event that all licenses last granted by operation of this section for video gambling terminals at any of the currently 12 licensed premises lapse or are terminated for any reason, the number of licensed premises authorized by the corporate authorities to display video gambling terminals to be played or operated by the public shall automatically and immediately be reduced by 1. So if somebody currently loses or lapses a license, the number should, by construction of this, go down to 11 that are authorized. So if it is the intent and desire of the council that we either have 12 or if the number is increased to 20 that are available at any given time, we need to change that language.
That's the same language as the liquor license. So I don't know if we want to change it.
Well, but we're in practice,
Well, I mean, that's why I asked the question.
But right now, the city's in violation of its own ordinance.
Yeah, right.
By
So I think we
issuing,
need to change.
the last
I think we need to change the practice and treat it like a liquor license and come back to the council.
That is absolutely a policy call for the council to make, and we can draft it however
but
the
that's how
council-
it's written.
That's how
right
it's
now.
written, so we should just do it that way.
Yeah, well,
Okay?
But you have a business that has machines that were issued in contravention of that.
Well, you know,
well,
we find out mistakes and we fix them.
No,
exactly.
It's not saying we never make any mistakes. Charlie?
Okay, I guess, we already put these businesses through getting a liquor license and whatever. So if they have a liquor license, the background stuff is already done and whatnot. So I see no reason to have that same provision for this and have it coming back to council, 2 or 3 or 4 times a year, generating work for staff, generating work for us. So I see no reason for this provision to be in there. We already have it in the liquor license. So I would strongly urge us to get rid of this language and just do it as it's been working just fine out of finance the way they've been handling it. So
Do you want to just make a motion to revise it then?
I would, that's what I said, I would move to revise it by, and keep this in council with a move to defer.
Okay, you think it has to be deferred? You
I
can't
think
just do it right now?
I think I would prefer to defer it, get the correct language, and have it show up here at the next council meeting.
Okay, is there a motion, or second to the
Move to
motion by
defer.
Charlie?
I'll second.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, Bill has a question?
If we're going to send it to legal, then I know there's also a section in there that requires certain language about problem gambling and how to call Gambling Anonymous to be posted in the restaurant or in the place of business, in both the restrooms and in the business. I just asked that also be provided in Spanish. So I visited one of the places and I tried talking to someone when they were leaving to see how often they came, and we didn't speak the same language. So I think having it in Spanish would be good.
Mike?
I think what Charlie is bringing up here is great, and that was, I've gone back and forth about this for the last week, and I don't want to drag this out since we're going to revisit it, but it does seem to me that this is almost a duplicative licensure process. And I'm taking myself out of the equation as a liquor license holder on ever having a say on any of this, but if you have, since the prerequisite is a liquor license, I don't see why the city double dips on a gaming license. You're going to get the revenue. Let's not have the bureaucracy of a separate license from the city, because you're already going to deal with the applicant on the liquor license. So I really think we ought to approach this ordinance that way and look at it the way, frankly, Champaign is looking at it. Don't have a local license for gaming. If they get the liquor license, then they can get the gaming license. Of course, I mean, that opens up to anybody with a liquor license other than, well, anyone who consumes on the premises. So you're letting the market control then, but if you want to be on an equal footing with Champaign, we ought to seriously consider that.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion, please signify.
It's
Oh, just automatic? Okay,
Yep.
then we don't have to vote on it. All right, Michael.
Okay, hold.
Thank you.
The committee approved a motion to forward to the council with a recommendation to approve resolution number 2015-01-002R, resolution deeming certain funds in the special tax allocation fund for the downtown Urbana tax increment redevelopment project area as quote-unquote surplus funds and directing the payment and distribution thereof, 2014. On the behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Motion by Madigan, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries.
The committee approved a motion to forward to the council with a recommendation for approval, proposed ordinance number 2015-01-005, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance for FY 2014-15 TIF 1 surplus distribution. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
I'll second.
Motion by Madigan, seconded by Roberts. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Mayor Pressing?
Yes. That motion carries.
The committee approved a motion to forward to the council with a recommendation for approval proposed ordinance number 2015-01-007, an ordinance approving a redevelopment agreement first amended and restated with Cake Design Development LLC, Series 204 West Main Street, Matt Cho. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
A motion by Madigan, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll? Oh, did you want to say something, Libby?
After the vote or now, I just wanted to alert the council that there will be a follow-up ordinance next week at council, and this is to move the funds from 1314 to 1415. So it's a little budget cleanup, and that will be coming to you at a special meeting next week. So I wanted to let you know that. Thank you.
Okay. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Madigan. Reports of special committees. I don't believe we have any. Reports of officers. Diane.
I've been asked to announce that the Community Blood Services of Illinois is going to hold a blood drive tomorrow, Wednesday, January 21st, at the Urbana City Building. The reserves have been very much depleted during the holidays, and the need right now is critical. So the time is 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and it's in this room, the City Council chambers. People are asked to eat before donating, drink extra water, bring an ID, and you're eligible to donate if you donated on or before November 25th, 2014. Again, that's tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. here.
Okay, thank you. Any other reports of officers? Okay, we'll move on to new business. There's one item. I would recommend the appointment of Todd Rent as the Human Resources Manager, and his resume is attached.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Smythe, seconded by Brown, I believe. Any discussion?
There.
Would the clerk please, no, we don't do that. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.